पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ बहुत सारे महाज खुले, कुछ हमने खुद खोले और काफी सारे हमारे खिलाफ खोले गए। आज का महाज। Good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you wherever you may be. My name is Wajahat Saeed Khan. I'm an independent journalist based here in New York City.
And I'm Brigadier retired Feroz H. Khan. I'm research professor at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California.
So basically, we've struck a tipping point in US-Pakistan bilateral relations. Pakistan has been developing nuclear weapons and their missile delivery systems since the 70s and 80s, but not till now, not till this moment, has the United States publicly announced that the Pakistan missile program is a direct threat to these great United States. Now, the Americans have reprimanded Pakistan in the past for its missile and nuclear program. They've sanctioned it. They've imposed restrictions, and at times over the years, even given the Pakistanis a free pass. But why now? What has happened between Washington and Islamabad, or to be more concise, what has happened between Washington and Rawalpindi in recent times that the Americans have now publicly issued such a statement? And it's not just this statement. The Americans have also slammed unprecedented sanctions on Pakistan's NDC, the National Development Complex, the headquarters of developing these long-range missile systems. To answer this question about this important moment in US-Pak American ties, Brigadier Feroz Khan, who is a professor at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, is going to be joining me. He rarely gives interviews, but he is undoubtedly one of the world's foremost authorities on nuclear proliferation in South Asia. He is a former brigadier in the Pakistan Army, where he's had experience in combat on numerous active fronts like Siachen and Kashmir. Very importantly, he has held fellowships at Stanford, at the Wilson Center for International Scholars, the Brookings Institution, and currently teaches, very importantly, at the Naval Postgraduate Center. His views are his own, not of his former employers, the Pakistan military, or his current employers at the Naval Postgraduate Center. I must point that out. But perhaps most critically for me, he is the author of Eating Grass, The Making of the Pakistani Bomb, which is a masterpiece when it comes to understanding the genesis of the Pakistani nuclear program. Not many people on this planet are better placed to talk about this moment than Brigadier Khan. Sir, welcome to Mahaz. Thanks for being on this show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I don't think so that I can answer all the questions that you posed, but to the extent that why this particular moment has come at this particular time is a reflection of the nature of state of relationship between the United States and Pakistan. And nuclear is one of the issues that is one of the major issues that has been bedeviling the relationship for a very long time. In fact, to be very honest, ever since Pakistan began the nuclear program, this has been the friction point between the two countries. But other expediencies of national security always trumped over these proliferation concerns, and the US went back and forth over a period of time, and that gave the window of opportunity to Pakistan to do what it thinks is a very essential component of Pakistan national security, which is nuclear deterrence. And therefore, there are two distinct narratives that Pakistan defines its nuclear deterrence in ways and manner in which United States does not necessarily agree. And here is one of the examples that the United States had to come out publicly to speak what they have been sort of privately indicating to them, until now.
Yeah. But Professor, break this down for me. I mean, I was born in 1978, which is just around the time the Pakistani nuclear program was born, as you have listed out in your book. So in a way, I'm from that I'm a nuclear-powered Pakistani, so to say. But there've been ebbs and flows between these two countries. The Americans have sometimes been kind and sometimes been not very kind, but they've never been this brazen. Why is it that we are seeing someone like John Feiner, who's the number 2 in the national security apparatus of this country, in the US. He's the Deputy National Security Advisor. On the last legs of the Biden administration, has come out and said whatever he said, that this program is a direct threat to the United States. Why now? Why in 2024? What has happened between Pakistan and the US that he's got to say this now?
Well, it's very hard to point out that anything specific has happened that has triggered this. Usually, what happens is that this has been a fifth or sixth sanctions every year during the Biden administration about
Seventh round. This is the seventh round.
Yeah, to be specific. And around this time, November, December time is the one that they usually announce that. But what has made the difference this time is that they have particularly targeted a national defense complex of Pakistan, which is the government entity, rather than those front companies that used to be in the past. And also the statement that followed up by specifically saying that it's a direct threat to the United States, or words to that effect. This is significantly different and new from the. I personally don't think that Pakistan is a direct threat to the United States or its missile program, etc., at least from the current ranges, etc. What it probably alludes to is that if they continue on this path, the ranges of the Pakistani missiles are likely to increase and goes beyond the purview of the Indian subcontinent, which the United States considers will be a potential threat in the future, given that the nature of relationship is uncertain with Pakistan, depending on what kind of government comes into power in Islamabad. So this has been said silently and quietly, but now it has come out publicly that the US perceives this to be a threat. So one thing to say that US perceives a direct threat to its mainland, which is, I think, a grossly exaggeration of the kind at the moment. But another thing is to say that, your missile range could threaten other allies or other US national security interest is a different definition, So from that standpoint, perhaps if the Pakistani ranges increase from the current level, the US may not view it very kindly.
Right. Let's take a quick listen to what John Feiner has said.
Next, Pakistan. Recently, Pakistan has developed increasingly sophisticated missile technology, from long-range ballistic missile systems to equipment that would enable the testing of significantly larger rocket motors. If these trend lines continue, Pakistan will have the capability to strike targets well beyond South Asia, including in the United States, raising real questions about Pakistan's intentions. The list of countries that possess both nuclear weapons and the missile capability to directly reach the US homeland is very small, and they tend to be adversarial towards the United States: Russia, North Korea, and China. So candidly, it's hard for us to see Pakistan's actions as anything other than an emerging threat to the United States.
It's really important to just break this down real quickly, Professor. He has said the United States, but what you are alluding to is that the threat to the United States is vastly exaggerated. Are you alluding to Israel, that the next potential area of concern for the US could be Israel, that Pakistan could hit Israel, and that's where this conversation is going, given the current context of where things are going in the Middle East?
Yes, that's exactly. Given the context, the environment in Middle East, and the potential that Pakistani missile ranges could increase from the current longest range missile is Shaheen 3, which is 2750 kilometers declared by the Pakistanis. If you go into 4,000 or 4,500, anywhere about 10, 1,500, that gets into close to the intermediate, IRBM ranges, and then the next stage is an ICBM. So, it's a matter of capability. If you develop 2 to 3 stages of experiment or, missile systems, then it's a matter of time that you will have that capability eventually at the moment. And that is a concern, I believe, which is the reason why US has come out and said. So.
Okay, real quickly, is this going to stop the Pakistanis? I mean, other state entities have been sanctioned before, like the KRL, the Kahuta Research Labs have been sanctioned before. We've seen those roaring 90s and 2000s when these sanctions were being kicked in. And yet we've survived. The program is robust and continues to develop. So really, The question is that what's suffering? Is the program suffering, or is the relationship between the US and Pakistan suffering? Which is the real victim here?
Actually, it's the US-Pakistan relation. The Pakistanis are unlikely, given the history, the Pakistanis are unlikely to be deterred by sanctions alone. You have seen that happen for the last 50 years now. But at the moment, it's the nature of relationship it's a reflection of the nature of relationship, and nuclear weapons is one of the major concerns. If you want to know the nature of relationship where the US-Pakistan relation is sort of problematic, is the Pakistan relation with China, Pakistan's relation with India, Pakistan's policy about they've changed, but about counterterrorism policy in the region, and of course, nuclear weapons program and its ranges. Now, I think that US reluctantly accepted Pakistan and India's program after the test, and let it pass. And I think even now, in my personal opinion, the current ranges from the lowest range of Nasser to Shaheen 3 is more or less been accepted, again, reluctantly. But if it goes anything below Nasser or it goes anything beyond Shaheen 3 ranges, this is going to be the problem. And I think this is what in my view, has been the concern of the United States. But I cannot say what really changed for the outgoing Biden administration to make a statement of that kind of Pakistan being a threat. I think it doesn't serve any purpose both to the United States and Pakistan both. So that's kind of an exaggeration in my personal view.
Okay, so we're talking about the outgoing administration. Let's talk about the incoming administration. When now the Pakistanis are probably going to go to the war room on this. The National Command Authority might meet, might not. They haven't met in a couple of years. They should meet. And when they do, they're going to get ready for Trump. It's going to be Trump time in Washington soon. So the question, sir, is what's going to happen then? What is the case the Pakistanis could present to Trump? And more importantly, what is the case that Trump will actually inherit? Because from what we understand of the former president, when he takes over, if he reads some sort of a CIA daily briefing, as the president is supposed to, that, right a couple of weeks before you took over, sir, the Biden administration slammed sanctions on the Pakistanis because ... means their long-range ballistic missile program is headed to the United States. That's all it's going to take to put the man to work. What do you think is going to happen in this very important period over the next few weeks between Pakistan and the US?
Well, I think this announcement made by the Biden administration is certainly going to put the incoming Trump administration into a difficult position because we don't know what Trump 2.0 is likely to be from Trump the first time, first Trump 1.0. But it's probably that it might be slightly different than what it was at that time when the Trump administration engaged with Pakistan in 2018-19 timeframe. It was critical because US had to withdraw from Afghanistan and they had made up their mind, and Pakistan was a critical component at the time. So therefore, those particular elements were kind of put on the back burner. That's what the US has been doing. When their national security interest comes, they put these proliferation concerns onto the back burner. But if those concerns are not, it comes into the front burner. It has happened so many times. You mentioned your date of birth. When you were born, we were under sanctions by the Carter administration at the time. At the time. So you were born under sanctions, all the Pakistan nuclear program.
That's funny. That explains a lot about me.
And then so it keeps on coming back and forth in the period where the exigencies of national security weakens, and this has been the pattern of history. So we really don't know. But for Pakistan, what to do, apart from what you just suggested, and I'm suggesting that too, that the Pakistan National Command Authority must meet down and carry out a full net assessment about where the program's priorities should be, vis-a-vis what the conventional threats are, vis-a-vis what the economic situation in the country and other threats are, and where the international relations are actually standing at the moment as the new 2025. So 1/4 of a century, 21st century is gone. Technological changes have happened. So many other factors have come into the play. The character of warfare has changed. You need to have a cumulative assessment of all that. And I would say for the Pakistan government and for the US government both, there you need to have engagement to start again, which has been absent after the Obama administration. These issues were never discussed once the Obama administration ended, During Trump administration, there was no strategic dialogue to my knowledge. There was none during the Biden administration. And I think the best thing is for the Pakistanis to now get into a very serious diplomatic engagement on these issues. And, deterrence and capability is not the only thing that assures you security. It is something called reassurance. And the reassurance comes through engagement and dialogue and many other means of communicating that you are not a threat to the United States, and that what the statement is made, you have to translate that rather than making a statement. For example, the Pakistan Foreign Office statement is that this is not good for strategic stability in the region. These are the statements that come out from the Pakistan Foreign Office. Well, it's a very good statement, but what does it really mean? So you got to really sit down across the table and explain what do you really mean by strategic stability. Because if India is building up arsenals which are clearly ICBMs, they know that, it doesn't bother the United States. So by simply saying that, oh, India is doing that, why are we being targeted? Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're talking about the discrimination. Of course, international relation is harsh. It's discriminatory. It's never fair. You all know that. But you got to figure out what is in your national interest at the moment and how should you be doing all this. So this is where I think, so the Trump administration may start with a fresh approach, unlike its predecessors or unlike its previous administration altogether. But having said that, in my personal opinion, I think the bandwidth on Pakistan will still be very, very low given other threats in the world, Ukraine and Middle East and China and Northeast, North Korea and so many. So I think the prime time will be taken by those events. And it's up to Pakistan how they engage the United States.
Yeah, I think Trump's bandwidth will be limited. I agree. But I think the Pakistani bandwidth is already, there's evidence that it's going to be limited as well. The creativity with which the Foreign Office has dealt with these statements so far and these sanctions is, not really there. Same old statements about India, discrimination, double standards, the regional strategic balance, nothing really reassuring for the US, which makes me wonder about the standard of diplomatic and military leadership in that country, Professor. Now, you've served in the army. You have traversed both the US and Pakistan. You teach here. You've served there. What's your take on the current military and diplomatic leadership? Do they have what it takes to deal with this new problem creatively, out of the box? Or is it the same old India centrism of their statements, which is already evident? How are they going to deal with this?
Well, I'm sure they've been in engagement with the United States. I mean, they're not completely out of the picture of what's going on. I cannot comment on the quality of what it is now, but they should be doing this, because they have no other choice. What I'm alluding to is that from the statements that are coming out, public statements that are coming out, official statements, that looks, as you're mentioning, the same old statements. So you need to come out and do a different level of engagement at the moment with the United States. After all, you are still a major non-NATO ally. You got to really talk to them.
Whatever that's worth. Brigadier Feroz Khan, professor at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. I hope it's nice and sunny out there in Cali, Professor. It's not so much here in New York.
It's wonderful here.
I might pay Cali a visit in 2025. Season's greetings, happy holidays, and thanks for being on the show at such short notice. I know it's a Friday out there, and you guys might as well start taking a 3-day weekend and out in Cali. You guys have different work standards. But
happy holidays.
You take care.
This shall pass. Thank you.
पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ बहुत सारे महाज खुले, कुछ हमने खुद खोले और काफी सारे हमारे खिलाफ खोले गए। आज के महाज